Welcome back to the channel and welcome to our review of the NearStream VM33 all-in-one wireless streaming camera.
Okay, all in one. So does that mean it prints and scans too then?
Well, no, Keith, but it isn't that kind of all-in-one device. The camera is designed to allow anyone who wants to stream practically anywhere the ability to do so via Wi-Fi, cellular data, or wired internet connection using an adapter.
Okay, I see. Then I'm guessing this is a direct competitor to the Mevo Start that we reviewed in Michigan a few years back. Is that right?
Spot on, Keith. And it has a few tricks up its sleeve as well.
So I suppose you are referring to the 10x optical and the 4x additional digital zoom for an effective 40x zoom between the two of them. And I also suppose that you're thinking the multi-camera capabilities built right into the software solution is a differentiator, not to mention the 8 built-in microphone array with AI-powered noise cancellation and automatic gain control is probably another item up its proverbial sleeve.
How? How did you know all that, Keith?
Oh, I don't know. I read the specs. And on top of that, I didn't even mention the huge 6400 milliamp hour built-in battery for up to 8 hours of power on time. But if you need more battery, you can power it with a USB-C connection and record and stream.
Huh. Well, I'll be. You read the specs. You know, that sounds just crazy enough to work.
Yeah. So let's talk some use cases. Since it can use Wi-Fi, wired internet with the adapter, or cellular, you have your choice. It really can be used almost anywhere. But I could definitely see this being useful for, I don't know, church or with a camera zoomed in at the front of the service, for example. Possibly one on the choir and one on the back of the church, covering the wide view, for example.
Yeah, that's definitely something it would be great for, especially with the 10x optical zoom. That way you're not losing any quality since it isn't all digital zoom. And the same idea would work for, say, a youth baseball game where you could have a camera on the pitcher and one covering the field and maybe one for home plate. Or you could use the zoom feature to change views depending on your preference and, where you have access to the locations you can place a camera.
Yep. And I imagine you could use it for a wedding, for example, or outdoor sports, maybe a business meeting, webinar type of stuff. And I know you've probably already tried it out on volleyball. I'm just going to guess.
Yeah. Yes, you know me well. Unfortunately, I got this camera at the tail end of Lily's volleyball season, so I only got one tournament to work with the camera. And there were some items that, were definitely learning experiences. I tried to use both the Mevo Start and the VM33 at the same time, which caused some, technical issues I had to work through.
Okay, yeah, we should probably talk about that particular scenario, but first let's get some housekeeping out of the way, shall we? NearStream did reach out to us and asked if we would like to review the VM33.
Oh yes, that is correct. They provided the camera for the review, but aren't sponsoring the video. We don't have to return the camera, but we aren't actually getting paid separately for doing the video.
Yeah, as well, they didn't tell us what we could or couldn't say, and they won't see the video or have any input on the video prior to it being published.
We like to be transparent in these situations, and now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about the volleyball tournament because it really was a crash course on the device for me and an environment that I'm very familiar with working in. And the restrictions that and time constraints that are involved.
Yeah, Bruce, I think that is an understatement. Considering you've live streamed somewhere north of, I don't know, like 300 volleyball games at this point, I think you are very familiar with that scenario. And with that in mind, how did the camera do and what did you learn?
So first, this camera has wonderful optics. I mean, just look at the size of this lens. And then if you compare that to the Mevo Start, right? So I don't know if you can see that very well in there, but these two lenses are significantly different in size. Now, one thing I would say about the VM33 is I would like the field of view to be a bit wider. I believe the Mevo Start has a 76-degree horizontal field of view, whereas the VM33 has an 80-degree. Now, that might not sound like much of a difference, but when you're trying to fit an entire volleyball court into the shot, every degree in that situation definitely counts. Both these cameras, give up some field of view to, say, an action camera. Those are kind of known for that characteristic. But the action camera can't match the rest of the functionality that these dedicated streaming cameras provide.
Okay, yeah, and if I remember correctly from our conversation, you had a bit of a glitch where your phone kind of jumped onto the Mevo Wi-Fi, and that sort of interrupted your live stream on the VM33.
Correct, Keith. Now, that wasn't the VM33 camera's fault, okay? But it did expose my first issue with the software. If you lose your connectivity, the software continually warns you that, and the live button is spinning the wheel of death, preventing you from actually stopping the stream gracefully. I actually had to restart my phone and the camera to stop the live stream.
Yeah, that sounds rough to me. Panic-inducing, you might say. And that was one of the things you passed along to support, right? And I believe another problem you had was on your iPad trying to set up streaming to Facebook. And if I recall correctly from our conversation, that was actually an issue caused by changes to the Facebook API, and that actually impacted the Mevo software and, I don't know, likely others as well.
Yeah, that was frustrating, and that obviously wasn't NearStream's fault. It was just bad timing around the tournament schedule and Facebook's API change timeline.
Okay, and I think another thing that is interesting is that the software's handling of network configuration. I believe you found it a bit difficult to change what network you were attaching to, isn't that right?
Yeah, to me, it just isn't super intuitive, and maybe there's still some learning curve there. But I ended up removing cameras and then re-adding them, and when I wanted to change what network it was connected to. As well, I had to reset the camera to factory so I could start bringing it into the software from scratch. So it just feels like there's some streamlining that definitely can be done on that front.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff, all the camera is pretty new, right? And I think many of the things that you ran into can be summed up kind of by just saying the software, it's still maturing at this point.
I think that is a fair and accurate assessment. I also think the VM33 has been around for about a year and the Mevo Start around 4 years. So the Mevo software has had, a considerable amount of time to evolve, mature, and become more streamlined.
Yeah, I do recall us talking about the rough edges of the Mevo software in our review of that product. And then while you were editing that review, they released a new software that addressed much of what you mentioned.
That's definitely true. And I want to explain why we keep mentioning the Mevo Start. It quite frankly has been the gold standard in this space for a couple of years now. But a product that is 4+ years old in this space, when, there's a lot of electronics and camera hardware integrated in, that's saying something.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, in the software industry, 4 years is a lifetime. 4 years is a long time. And for hardware, maybe it's less of a lifetime thing, but it's a long time. I see where you're going. And this camera has much newer hardware, right? The maximum resolution is actually 2160p, I think, right? 2160p versus 1080p on the Mevo. Now, you can't stream today, by the way, at that resolution, but you can record locally using that 2K 2160p resolution.
That's right. And you have a lot of control over the local and live stream resolution and bit rates. You can do, that too on the Mevo, but it requires a little digging into the software to enable that feature. Whereas the VM33 software is always in, advanced mode.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. Really, when I look at the two approaches, it almost parallels the iOS and Android experience, right? If you want to lift the hood on your phone, you go Android, right? And if you want slick and easy, you're more likely to go with the Apple iOS device, right? That's kind of the thing I have in my head. And, the VM33 is more like the Android phone than the Mevo, which is more like the iOS.
Keith, I think that is a fair comparison of where the software is, at least today.
Yeah, the way you said that really kind of illuminates where our review of this NearStream VM33 device is going. The VM33 is likely where the Mevo was a few years ago, right? Great hardware with software that needed to catch up a little bit. The VM33 software, yeah, it has some room to grow.
And that begs a question for our viewers and us, to be frank. Would you rather have new hardware with tons of potential and promise, with software that is still evolving and refining, or that spit polished software and older hardware tech built into the device?
Ah, yes, that's a great question. That's like a what's the fundamental order of the universe all about type of question. The hardware, the hardware is the hardware. It is what it is, right? It's never going to improve, until you decide to pull your wallet out and buy another device, right? Which is a thing, right? But software, software can be improved indefinitely, basically, if the company chooses to do so.
Exactly. And as I've worked with the software more, I've gotten to know it better. I still believe there are a lot of things that can be done, to make it, better, work a little bit easier. And I've gotten a, reminder of that. The Mevo isn't perfect. The VM33 software update to fix the problems with the API change from Facebook, got introduced and it worked like a champ. The Mevo Start took a bit of messing around to correct the problem, and it reminded me, once again, of the iOS and Android comparison. When the Mevo Start software wouldn't work, I really was stuck. I couldn't get around the problem and log into my Facebook profile. So it literally had me stuck in a loop, and I felt pretty helpless to get it worked out.
Yeah, and I have to say I'm impressed that when you called them to tell them that you had this issue, they built a new patch for it and they fixed it on the spot. I mean, that's from a support perspective, from a software company. Holy smokes, that's impressive. Good job. But it is safe to say the software is growing on you, and at least you have become much more familiar with it.
Yes, that's definitely safe to say. I can also tell you this. I still haven't spent nearly enough time with this device. There's still so many features I really haven't, had an opportunity to work with.
Okay, well, I think it would be fair to finish this review, but slate a long-term update, maybe 6 to 12 months from now down the road. I would love to see this working in the multicam environment, for example. Imagine having 2 or 3 of these cameras when we get together in September.
Keith, our audience doesn't know about September yet. Well, I should say actually that they didn't, but I guess now they do. But yes, I think we should plan on a live stream for our 5-year channel anniversary.
Alrighty, let's book it. Good. So back to the VM33. I know you can actually stream music using the software, so if you want to run background music, it's right there. Have you tested that?
There is music, Keith, and unfortunately I haven't had a chance to test that yet, but it is a feature that if you want to have some music, it's right there to deploy. Now, we wouldn't want to try and leverage that for our sample stuff here because the music is fine to stream with, but it's not okay for us from a monetization of our channel perspective. So we're gonna avoid demonstrating that. You can also overlay graphics in your stream, so you can use picture-in-picture when you have the multicam set up as well. So imagine you have a sporting event with 2 cameras. One could be zoomed in on the scoreboard, while the other is a wide view of the game. There's also HDR video. Manual or automatic focus. You have full control over the image quality and settings, so color, brightness, those types of things.
Yeah, that's good. And I know you can use the 8 MEMS microphones in their array that they have on it, and 3.5 millimeter audio from a microphone, or even USB-C audio on compatible devices. The camera has the hardware to do H.264 or H.265 encoding, and H.265 is good, because it maximizes your quality while minimizing the bandwidth requirements for your live stream.
And the ability to simultaneously record a local copy of the video while your stream is going is great. And you can mix the resolutions of your stream and local copy so they don't have to actually be the same size or bitrate.
And You also discovered your local copy will continue recording if your stream is interrupted because of your network connection, which is kind of cool. This was a huge complaint about the Mevo Start from our review last time about the Mevo. And to this day, Logitech hasn't really made it possible to continue the local record if the stream fails.
Yeah, and that just happened while I was trying to test the VM33 and the Mevo on wireless side by side. The NearStream is far more persistent about maintaining its live stream, whereas the Mevo tries for a bit and then honestly just gives up.
Jeez, where's its fight? Come on!
I know! Now, the VM33 is, well, it's a massive device, but in a good way. I mean, if you're, super limited on space, the Mevo is probably easier to travel with. But the battery on the Mevo is rated for up to 6 hours. I think, in real life, maybe 3 to 4 is accurate. The Mevo Start takes forever to charge. I want to say, like 6 to 8 hours. So I'd come home from volleyball tournaments and have to plug that sucker in because, if we were starting right back up the next morning, you had to give it some time. The VM33 is rated for up to 8 hours, of runtime, but I think it's fair to say that 3 to 4 hours of actual, hardcore streaming is going to be what you're, going to land on. And it, to its credit, only requires about 4 hours to fully charge on a fast charger, so that helps a lot. As well, for the extended runtime that you might want, as we stated before, you can power it off of a USB connection, whether that be a power brick that is plugged into the wall, or one of those little power banks that you travel around with, as long as it does provide a suitable output to keep up with what the VM33 wants. And that's going to keep you in that true field deployment mode, if you will. The Mevo Start does get hot after a long period of streaming. So that's something to keep in mind. The VM33 was only slightly warm and only on the back of the device. So I think a lot of the electronics are probably concentrated here, but there's enough space in this cabinet that heat dissipation does not seem to be much of an issue.
Actually, that's pretty impressive. That's interesting. Does this thing have a fan, or are there airflow slots in this? I'm wondering how it's able to cool itself so effectively.
Keith, that is a great question. I'm not seeing any signs on the device itself that that there's any fan. I guess it could have something to just move air inside the chassis, but I don't see any air vents unless maybe up on the array that those are dual purpose. But I think that's just sound capabilities up there. So I think it might just be using some good heat management inside, and material science and such, and maybe good old-fashioned just space. I mean, there's quite a bit of space in this chassis, and so whatever they're doing, it seems to be working pretty effectively. Now, another feature I didn't get a chance to really test, but for some people that want a hardware and software solution capable of working with cameras that support NDI, right? There's a streaming standard for network cameras called NDI. This camera can be put into NDI mode. So again, we didn't have the opportunity to test this functionality, but we plan on making sure we include that in when we revisit this device in 6 to 12 months, whatever time frame that ends up turning out to be.
Yeah, so I know we're probably getting a little bit long here, but there is a lot to cover in this big boy. So how about we play some of the test videos for people so they can see and hear for themselves? We're going to show the live stream alongside the local copy. Bruce pulled the video from Facebook as it was streamed.
Correct, Keith. I was trying to test the Mevo and the VM33 side by side outside, but the Mevo was failing on the cellular service, and I don't know why. But I did bring both the units inside and tested the VM33 with both the general and the speech mode. As well, I did use the Hollyland Lark Max wireless mic with the receiver connected to the VM33 using the 3.5 millimeter audio connector. I may try that test again, and if we do, what I'll do is I think we've got so much testing that people might be interested in. We'll release a separate video with the extended testing information and include just the snippets of the testing here within the video, so that we can kind of keep that time down. But if you're interested in geeking out or going full Keith, then we'll make that extended video test available to you in a separate video.
Yeah, and then we have the Wi-Fi test, right, for both units, and we can illustrate in a more controlled environment in your studio. This time we could test the Mevo and the VM33 using their built-in mics and the Lark Max microphone again.
All right, this is a test of the NearStream VM33 outdoors using a cellular connection. I have the controls for the camera on my cell phone. That's why the cell phone is in my hand. This is using the built-in microphones, the 8 MEMS array microphone setup from NearStream, integrated into the camera. I'm at a distance of about 6 to 8 feet, and we're racing some rain here right now. So hopefully we'll finish this test. I'm going to go ahead now and really quickly connect up the Hollyland Lark Max phone system to this, and now our audio is going to be provided via the Lark Max microphone that I have on here, and the receiver. The output is set to start your live stream. So this is just going to run. This is to test the built-in microphone for the Mevo Start. So this is the built-in audio. I am at a distance of about 6 to 8 feet away from the Mevo. I'll move a little bit closer, and this is using the built-in 3 MEMS array microphones that it has built in. So real quick, let's go ahead and connect up my Hollyland microphone for the Hollyland Lark Max Wireless. I am also going to adjust the settings of the audio up. I have noticed that by default it needs a little bit higher level. I think I have the input level set wrong, and neglected to go in and change that in the settings before I started this. So we'll just go with this. So here is the Hollyland Lark Max through the 3.5 millimeter jack, so you can hear that, and that concludes this test of the Mevo Start audio and video quality using the cellular connection. All right, this is a test of the NearStream VM33 outdoors using a cellular connection. I have the controls for the camera on my cell phone. That's why the cell phone is in my hand. This is using the built-in microphones, the 8 MEMS array microphone setup from NearStream, integrated into the camera. I'm at a distance of about 6 to 8 feet, and we're racing some rain here right now. So audio is going to be provided via the Lark Max microphone that I have on here, and the receiver. The output is set to 10.
Hey, I'm going to make this quick. This is a live stream of the Mevo Start using my cellular data connection. It is 1080p on the local recording.
So here is the Hollyland Lark Max through the 3.5 millimeter jack, so you can hear that, and that concludes this test of the Mevo Start audio and video quality using the cellular connection. If you switch to speech mode, I'll turn that on briefly here, and then you can hear the difference that it's going to try and isolate some noise. I would not anticipate that in this environment, in a controlled environment like the studio, my bar area that I make my studio, that there would be a lot of ambient noise that would have to cancel out. So there's no one running and talking, maybe if the dog barks, it would try and isolate that noise in the environment. So let's go ahead and go back to those audio settings and change that back to general. And their comment here is, this mode is suitable for most environments. So this is an audio test of the VM33 from NearStream with the Hollyland Lark Max wireless microphone receiver connected via the 3.5 millimeter audio jack, and output level set to 10. Of output on 10. So let's go ahead and make that change now. First, I'm going to plug this into the Mevo. So this is the Mevo Start with the Hollyland Lark Max receiver connected through the 3.5 millimeter audio jack, set to an output level on the receiver to 10.
If you switch to speech mode, I'll turn that on briefly here, and then you can hear the difference that it's going to try and isolate some noise. I would not anticipate that in this environment, in a controlled environment like the studio, my bar area that I make my studio, that there would be a lot of ambient noise that would have to cancel out. So there's no one running and talking, maybe if the dog barks, it would try and isolate that noise in the environment. So let's go ahead and go back to those audio settings and change that back to general. And their comment here is, this mode is suitable for most environments.
So this is an audio test of the VM33 from NearStream with the Hollyland Lark Max wireless microphone receiver connected via the 3.5 millimeter audio jack and output level set to 10.
Of output on 10. So let's go ahead and make that change now. First, I'm going to plug this into the Mevo.
So this is the Mevo Start with the Hollyland Lark Max receiver connected through the 3.5 millimeter audio jack, set to an output level on the receiver to 10.
Okay, Keith, after seeing the quality of both the local recordings and the resulting streams, what did you think of both?
Yeah, so taking a look through the test footage from Bruce's testing, a few things kind of jumped out at me. First thing that kind of jumped out at me was that these compression algorithms are pretty good. I had the opportunity to be looking at the original the original source file saved onto the camera device, from the recording, and compare that to the much smaller file size of the version that was streamed through Facebook, right? And so this is the compression algorithm that's being used for streaming. And I was just sort of inherently expecting to really be able to notice that, the streamed version is so much lower quality, especially looking at them kind of side by side. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not picky. I think I am not picky when it comes to video compared to like a still photograph. But overall, I was impressed. I think these compression algorithms are kind of amazing. There's nothing to do, I don't think, with the Mevo versus the NearStream, but the compression algorithms, wow, that jumped out at me how good those things actually are. Second thing, talking about the NearStream versus the Mevo, the video quality. At first, I was just looking at the Mevo and I'm like, yeah, I liked it. It's good, pretty high resolution, colors look good. But then once I saw the NearStream, yeah, I like the NearStream better. I think it was not the resolution difference that made it for me, but it was the color science. It was just more vibrant. That's a very subjective thing. People's opinions change from person to person on that kind of thing. But I like the NearStream much better. And then for the audio, this was, my brain went to a very weird place with this. The first thing I noticed, kind of on both cameras, is that the external mic that Bruce used, the Hollyland, it didn't sound as good compared to the in-body microphones that are on both devices. And kind of surprised me because we use these same exact external mics on our normal cameras and we never really noticed that the quality's bad or anything. It was noticeably different. I think that there is different circuitry being used between the actual MEMS microphones and the voltage all the way down to recording it. That circuitry path is obviously pretty well engineered for the MEMS microphones that are in the body of the camera. And obviously the circuitry being used for the external mics is not as well isolated, or it's just something is not as good with external mics seem to be. The other thing too is the nature of the arrays. Now the array on the VM33 has more microphones in its acoustic array. And my mind went to a weird place only because I actually deal with engineering class acoustic arrays. And, for that, the goals are very different, and I was trying to wrap my brain around it. Maybe some of you of our viewers already know what these linear arrays are used for, but if you look at an engineering class microphone, and let's pretend this pen is a engineering class microphone, that whether a sound propagates towards that microphone diaphragm from behind or in front or to the left, right, above, below, it kind of hears it equally well, regardless of the direction of propagation. And that's what you want for engineering. But for this microphone, I think the purpose of that linear array is to make it, is to shape that sensitivity field. So I believe that where you aim the camera, that it's designed to hear more sensitively in the direction that it's aimed specifically, and that sounds that propagate from the left or the right, it's less sensitive in those directions. So it's got to be the reason for that array. So I had difficulty understanding how well that directionality worked, but I only think it's because of the way Bruce did the testing. That is why I didn't appreciate how well that feature worked. No offense, Bruce. And then the other thing that I kind of noticed was the processing algorithm. So there's an AI processing algorithm being used to turn on, for example, the dialogue mode or the speech mode. That was also, I didn't like it. The sound quality of the output of a speech mode wasn't very good. Now, I have to define very good. What does that mean? Or what does that mean to me? Ideally, I would love a microphone to sound rich and vibrant, maybe boost up my bass a little bit because I always want to hear myself that way. You know, that type of vibrancy. But then just remove all the leaves rustling and all the ambient noise completely and just leave my voice rich. But that's not what this speech or dialogue mode is doing. I think I know what it's doing. There is, in psychoacoustics, there are a bunch of sound quality metrics that can measure and assign a number to how intelligible speech is. Not just any old sound, but specifically speech in sound, in a sound field, and how understandable it is. So there's a thing called articulation index, and there's a thing called, I think, speech intelligibility metrics. And I think the AI algorithm is processing the sound data, the sound signatures, through an algorithm that is designed to increase those things. This is just a theory. This is a theory on my part. I think the AI is designed to increase, ironically enough, the AI, or the articulation index, or the speech intelligibility index. But that doesn't mean it sounds good. That just means it's easier to understand the speech. And I think it achieves that goal, which is why I think it's an AI designed to increase the AI. And I don't like that for streaming cameras. I think if you're doing it for a cell phone, yeah, that's probably fair, right? You don't need to like be impressed. You're not listening to Spotify on your cell phone, you know, at least to your ear. You really just want to understand what the person is saying, right? So having a sound processing algorithm just to make things intelligible is probably the right thing to do when you're on a phone call. But I don't know. For a streaming camera, I would prefer a better algorithm that makes the voice sound better. I don't know. And I think it probably does achieve its goal of directionality and sensitivity had we had a way to really test that properly.
So Keith, after looking at the video, a few things. One, you may notice that after I unplug the 3.5 millimeter jack from the back of the VM33, what would happen is from that point on, the audio and the video were not synced. I actually saw someone else's review that had that problem, but I don't think they ever put two and two together, and they just thought that the VM33 was drifting off on its own. I think there's a logical reason for that. So that may not be a big deal. I don't know that use case would be super common where you'd start with one microphone and then transition to the other. But if you are thinking about that, you might want to rethink that decision and come up with a better solution around it. To my ear, and I'll let you, because you've done a lot of work in the sound field. To my ear, the Mevo's 3 mics sound a little bit better in most of the situations than do the 8 mics. But that being said, I know there's probably quite a bit that can probably, be worked on from a software perspective, right? There's AI that's involved in some of that, sound cancellation, the noise cancellation work that's being done. So that may be something that could improve over time. It may not be strictly a hardware situation. And certainly you would think 8 mics done properly could potentially outperform the 3 mics. On the outdoor test that I did with the 10 times optical zoom, and I did restrict it to 10 times because I didn't really want to get involved in the digital zoom. I thought the image looked good. It was nice. One thing I didn't care for, though, and again, software perspective, I think they can make some improvements here. It seemed to have trouble acquiring me as the subject in the video. As well, it zooms to the center, and there's no way to reframe that. So, for example, if I'm standing in the frame and the center just happens to be my belt line, when I zoom, it's going to zoom to the center. I may get a close-up of my belt, which if I have a nice belt buckle, great, but probably not what you really want to make the subject of your video.
Yeah, and they thanked us for the email full of all of the suggestions that you made about the software changes. Shows me that they are interested and that they value thoughtful feedback and making the product better, which is a very good sign.
So we do have an affiliate link available if you'd like to get yourself the VM33. We think this is a really nice camera and has the potential to get even better through its software updates. The camera is priced at $399, and that's really in line with their main competition, the Mevo Start. You can also save a little bit of money if you're looking at a multicam arrangement. The 2-camera or the 3-camera bundle, they go for $798 and $999 respectively. So that's a good deal.
Yeah, those are some nice discounts. And if you're going for the multiple camera approach, it's a really big discount. Now, speaking of value, since you're still here, you must have found some value to the video as well. So perhaps a like is in order as well. If you're not already subscribed, come on. What are you waiting for?
So, for Bruce and Keith, thanks for joining us today, and you'll see us on the next episode of Dad's Talk Tech.